What's good, y'all? Master Yoshi here with Lucinda, the beautiful CBR600rr. 599 cc's of displacement, somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 horsepower. Is that too much for a beginner? Let's talk about it. What's good, y'all? So one of the most asked questions is a 600 a beginner bike? So I'm gonna give y'all my opinion on that. But first, I must say my opinion is gonna be slightly skewed. Although this is the first street bike I've owned, this is not the first motorcycle I've owned, nor is it the first motorcycle I've ridden. So since I owned a motorcycle before, do I necessarily count as a beginner when I first bought this? The motorcycle I had was a little CRF80, a little tiny dirt bike.
Cash Money Records taking over from the 99 to the 2000,
Got that bike when I was in the 5th grade. I sold it after I went to college. I didn't even ride that bike that much because, my mom was a stickler for the rules, you know what I'm saying? And it was illegal to ride those things on the street. And we didn't have a truck and trailer to take it out to the desert. So the times I got to ride it was very few and far in between. So I by no means got to master that thing. So some people would say, yeah, I was a beginner when I got this. Because there's a difference between riding on dirt in the street anyways. Some people would say, no, you wasn't a beginner because you actually had a motorcycle. But when it comes to answering that question specifically, I think this is a good beginner bike. Well, that's not a yes or no answer for me. It's a it depends answer because it depends on who's asking. Now, some people will say no beginner, no matter what, should be starting on anything with more than 500 cc's. Now, I'm gonna say it depends. It depends on who you are. It depends on how coordinated you are. You know what I'm saying? If you got some athletic bones in your body, then I think you can start on anything. If you got a straight head on your shoulders, a person of reason, yeah, I think you can handle this. Now, if you ain't that coordinated, I'm gonna say, maybe not, man. You gotta really learn how to ride first. And I said this because when I was taking my motorcycle, my MSF course, there were some people who just had no business on a motorcycle. I seen somebody go end over end. I ain't never seen nobody grab enough front brake on no ground to flip over the front handlebars. But he did. I said front handlebars, this is rear handlebars. I ain't never seen nobody grab enough front brake to go over the handlebars on no ground, especially when it's on an incline. But he did, man. So if he wanted a 600, I would say hell no. Hell no. But there's other people in the class who were doing just all right. They weren't struggling. They got the concept of the clutch down. And that's another thing. If you got an idea of how a clutch works, you already know how to drive a standard car, then yeah, you might be a little bit more able to handle a motorcycle. So I won't ever say, no, nobody should start on this. This ain't a beginner bike. It truly depends on who it is that's starting on it. Now, when you get into the world of motorcycles, man, there's always trade-offs you're going to have to think about. So one of the trade-offs I would agree with is if you start on the 600, it might take you longer to become a good rider than it would if you started on a lower displacement, less aggressive bike. But the trade-off is, say this is the bike you really want, and if you buy a beginner bike before this bike, that's $2,000 that you're spending to learn how to ride. Or, for some people, it just seems more practical to get the bike they actually want the first time around and only spend money on purchasing the bike once. But again, the trade-off might be, man, it might take you longer to really perfect it, to really learn how to ride. Now, so for me, I decided to go with this bike because I had no wants to do anything crazy. And before I even got this bike, I'll tell you the bikes I rode. So I had my little CRF80. I had my brother's 2-stroke CRF. I think it was an 85 or something. That thing was buck wild. At the age of 16, I took my mom's GSXR 600 out joyriding. which is very foolish of me. Your boy was out there squinting, you know what I'm saying? Wearing his cut shirt, muscles rippling in the wind. And the biggest thing I remember from taking that thing out was how easy it was to ride compared to the dirt bikes I had ridden. I remember thinking, man, this thing is just so smooth. This thing is butter. So I'm saying that to say that, yes, these are more powerful, but they're so well refined that it almost makes them easy to ride. Now, at the same time now, they're not very forgiving. You got to be smooth with your inputs, you know what I mean? But you don't have to be as smooth as you do with a little 2-stroke race dirt bike. That thing was buck wild. So honestly, I thought the 600, my mom's Jixer, was easier to ride than some dirt bikes. So I think it might have been easier to learn on that thing than it was on them dirt bikes. Another example of this is like my uncle. My uncle got a C6 Z06, a Corvette. Of course, it's a standard transmission. And driving that thing was easier than driving my friend's Mustang. He had an old Mustang. I don't even remember what year. That thing was hard to drive. It was like a 86 or something. I don't know. That thing was so hard to drive because it wasn't as refined as this Corvette was. So yeah, man, I'll never tell you no beginner should start on no 600. I think a 600 could be a great beginner bike. It could be a great one-time bike. By one time, I mean, if you really love the CBR600 and that's the only bike you want, that's your dream bike, yeah, I think you could buy it. I think you'll be all right, man, as long as you got a level head on your shoulders. Yeah, again, you got to take my advice with a grain of salt. I'm no professional or nothing like that, man. But I do feel like I have enough skill to safely operate my motorcycle. I practice often, and that's what you're going to have to do as well. Get yourself to an open lot. Make sure you understand how to brake. All of that. Yeah, man, I ain't got nothing else for y'all, man. Y'all stay blessed. Don't be too stressed. Master Yoshi out. Peace.